What's going on, everyone? Welcome. This is Monday. It's August 8th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Oh, that came out perfect. Good morning, Andrew. Who else is here? Sound off. I want to hear you in. Oh, not hear you. I want to see you in the chat. Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Stacy. I hope you all had a great weekend. I sure did. And I want to hear about your weekend in a moment. We'll get going here and see where it takes us. It's Monday. We've got an episode of Martial Arts Radio to talk about. I'll give you a recap of what I did the last few days. And we'll see what else. If there's time, we'll pick up a topic and go from there. Ugh. Pardon me. Okay. Oh, wow. Look at everybody else here. Good morning, Frank and John and Jenny. It's growing. We're popping in from everywhere. It's hot. It's gross. It's 70 and muggy. And I'm doing something I almost never do. I'm running the air conditioner. The air conditioner ran from the time I got back on Saturday till I went to bed. Well, I turn it off at night because I don't quite need it at night. The house stays insulated enough. But man, it's hot and gross out. It really is. All right. Well, tell you what, let's start with our weekends. What did you do? I want to hear what you did in the chat. Now, Andrew says, you know what I did, which is not some like, I know what you did last summer creepy thing. It's because Andrew was in Connecticut Friday and Saturday training with Bill Superfoot Wallace, along with a few others. I was there Friday night, got to hang out Friday night and Saturday morning and drove home because I had a car rental. And there was a brief period of time where both cars were out on rental, and that's the first time that's happened. That was really interesting. And to make matters even funnier for my weekend, I'm sitting at the table Saturday morning, and something pops up on my phone. And I'm like, I don't recognize this notification. What is this saying? Oh, I have my first Hip Camp listing. Now, if you don't know about Hip Camp, it's kind of like Airbnb, but it's for campsites. And there's a corner of my lot where I said, you know what? Somebody could put a bus or an RV here. So I made that happen. Well, somebody, ironically enough, from Connecticut, while I'm in Connecticut, reserved that for their bus in Vermont. So there's a big old school bus in the corner of my land. And they pay me for this. It's sweet. Oh, Stacy says, how I spent my weekend, either fighting a nasty GI bug or super dehydrated. Oof, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, not fun. Never fun. What else did I do? I did a bunch of work around the house, outside of the house yesterday. And I came home to, I was pleasantly surprised. So I've mentioned a couple times on the show, I set up a plant stand. I have too many plants. I like plants. I like growing more plants. But I didn't have a good outlet for getting rid of plants. Well, I took my canopy and set it up on the side of the road and put a table and some couple signs and some plants. And I came home. Somebody had purchased plants and a quart of apple butter that I put out there. They got a good deal. They got a quart of apple butter for $10. I like making the stuff. I don't like eating it as much. But it was validating. It was more money, and I think they might have even overpaid me a few dollars. And so I put out more plants. So here we are. I've got like 5 businesses going. No wonder I'm busy. Jenny, and she talked about this on Friday, went to goat yoga. Goat yoga was amazing. My friend and I loved it. We went to my favorite restaurant after for yummy food and good conversation. Oh, sorry, great conversation. We had a great time. Awesome. I'm so excited. The next time I come down, let's go to goat yoga. Good morning, Dennis. Dennis says, I spent time this weekend with the legend, Andrew Adams. Woo! I was so sorry to miss hanging out with everybody Saturday and training, but had to happen. Sadly, I missed a number of my friends. I do want to tell you all a story, a Bill Wallace story. And this is kind of a setting up the story takes longer than telling the actual story, so you understand the importance of it. So we're spending some time at Daryl Belichewski's house, who was hosting Bill, and he's been on the show, and I don't even remember if this episode is aired. Andrew will remind me. I'm pretty sure it did. And he has a couple dogs. This big husky who does what huskies do, very talkative, and a large German Shepherd. That German Shepherd apparently has some social issues, and I was advised, we were advised when we got there, just don't look him in the eye. Okay, I can do that. And the dog was fine. I mean, I was playing with the dog, just, not looking directly at him, and we were good. Bill Wallace does not back down to anyone, including a dog. I watched that dog and Bill have their moments a couple times. This is a 85-pound German Shepherd. Go so far as to bark, bare teeth, and snap at Bill and press his teeth against Bill's closed hand. Didn't blink. Wasn't the least bit intimidated. And the dog backed down. Both times. It was fascinating to me. And I think why I was so fascinated was because it is a true presentation of his nature. I don't think I know anyone else who wouldn't have been at least a tiny bit nervous in that situation. And it's that element of his personality that I think makes Bill Wallace super fun. Zero fear. Good morning, Brian. Andrew says, I thought for sure he was going to get bit. He didn't. If he'd been there a couple more days, that dog would have been sitting in his lap. Really, really interesting to watch the dynamic. And so Friday night we trained. It was a small group, but had a good time. And we had some food. And we all just hung out and talked. It was nice being able to spend time with these people that I really like. I mean, from Andrew, who I get to talk to a lot, to Bill Wallace, who I don't get to talk to nearly as much, to new friends. Yeah, it's a good time. I don't think there's anything else from my weekend to mention. It's hot. I had ice cream for dinner because it was really hot. And I think that was it. Who else has something to share? Now, today, I have meetings all day. It's just meetings. And firearms lesson this evening. I think that's it. I know that sounds like not that much, but a lot. Oh, yeah. Andrew says, this weekend I also found out that Jimmy Pedro who's been on the show. Um, what's the mat company he works for? His daughter lives in Keene with Andrew, so we're gonna see if we can get her on the show because she teaches judo. Fuji, thank you. Yeah, Jimmy Pedro works for Fuji. He was a great guest. Super nice guy. All right. Speaking of martial arts radio, it is Monday, which means we have another episode out. Let me remind myself which episode it is. I gotta do this, and then I gotta go here, and then I gotta go here, and then I gotta go here. John Arujo. Yeah. So today's episode is with John Arujo, who some of you will get to meet at some point. Now, this is, I don't want to call it a crazy episode because it's not. And I don't want to use the words that I always use. But the hardest part for me in talking about these episodes, now that we've done this is 734, is finding ways to describe them succinctly. Ugh. Because all of the episodes are unique, because the people telling their stories are unique. Some of the stories have more similarity than others. This one doesn't have a lot of similarity to most of the stories. I could tell this story in a way that sounds very repetitive. But the way John tells his story, it is not. I like this one, and I liked him. And I hope you do too. So I'm encouraging you to check it out. It's all over the place, right? Podcast app, YouTube, Spotify. Remember, if you haven't left us reviews, please do. They help. Dennis says this week is his second consecutive 5-day work week, including 2 days in the office. The struggle is real, but I get to train with Andrew and Abby and Sarah, his wife, again on Friday. Woo! Nice. I will admit, I'm a little jealous of the time you guys get to hang together because I can't. I know you're having fun. I know it's good for everybody. So I'm not really jealous. Just kind of. I miss you guys. I miss you, Dennis. I don't get to see you as much. Stacy, in reference to the way I talked about this episode, foreshadowing. Dun dun dun. Jenny says, I'm a lot jealous. Yeah. So check out that episode. And as always, if you have guest suggestions or topic suggestions, just let me know. Email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. All right. Okay. Topic. So last week we talked a bit about awareness and self-defense and things like that. Let's bring it back into training. When you're working with someone, let's imagine you're working with someone who you're not the instructor, you're a student in the class. And you're partnered up with someone who is much newer than you. They don't have the experience. Do you see that as an opportunity to practice patience because you're bored? Do you see it as an opportunity to practice your more fundamental skills, demonstrating things, maybe even explaining or sharing them? Or do you just have fun and it doesn't matter who you're working with? kind of three, maybe three and a half answers in there. And I'm curious of this for the situation. So Andrew and his friend Abby came to the Superfoot training this weekend. I partnered up with Abby. She's a little bit shorter than me. Neither of us are tall people. And we had a condensed format on Friday night for the seminar. So there was a bunch of stuff that we didn't work on. But the things that we did work on, I'm not, last thing I'm going to say is I'm an expert at them or even good. But they're things that I know. And they're things I would say I am reasonably competent at and comfortable explaining. And so we were finding a balance that I think worked for both of us, where we both got to practice the physical skills. I had her doing more than I was. We weren't splitting the time 50-50 because it didn't need to be. And I was, instead of practicing all the physical stuff, practicing explaining or demonstrating or offering a little bit of critique to help her get the most out of her physical time. Now, I find that really valuable, but I've known plenty of people who would, if they were attending something like this, would be insistent on, I want half my time, half the time. I want to be treated just like you. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm curious how people look at a situation like that. Do you like working with lower rank students? If you've been training a while, probably have to, don't you? Because the longer you've been training, the lower rank everyone is. It was a fun weekend. I enjoyed that time. So Andrew says, I got a lot out of working with Paul and Dennis on Saturday, who, just for those who don't know the dynamic, Dennis, you're a third with Bill, right? And Paul's a fourth. Andrew's starting out. I hope they both enjoyed working with me totally lower in the Superfoot system. Jenny says, I'm the second ranking student in our school at the moment. I'm always partnering with lower ranked students. It's a great opportunity for me to work on my teaching skills. I'm much more comfortable at one-on-one teaching versus running a class too. Teaching helps me assess my own techniques too. Totally. Andrew says, I always enjoy working with lower ranked students. Stacy says, I find that when I do help lower ranks, it reinforces my learning and understanding. And I think this is key. This is something that I wish was more formalized in a lot of martial arts schools and simply in the general format of education. There's a, and I've heard this kicked around in different ways. I think it's like a 4-part, here's how you learn. But the last part is teach it. When you teach something to someone, have them teach it back to you to gauge how well they actually understand it. I find incredibly valuable. I have learned a huge amount teaching what I know to others, which is part of why I'm trying to open a school, because I know it's selfishly going to benefit me. And I suspect that most of you are similar in that way, but that doesn't mean that you enjoy it. Not everyone enjoys it. I know quite a few people who do not enjoy teaching. They do not enjoy working with lower ranks. And those folks do tend to be younger. They do tend to be lower ranked themselves. They see the value of martial arts as pushing and skills growth, etc. So, yeah. Mark says, you learn so much working with students. Absolutely. And Dennis is confirming for Andrew that he had an absolute blast working with everyone on Saturday. You and Abby did great. Denny says, working with lower ranking students helps me keep my beginner's mind. Shoshim for the Korean martial arts practitioners in the crowd. Oh, okay. And isn't that Shoshin in Japanese? Somebody else help me with that. I didn't grow up with those principles. I grew up knowing how to count and technique names. That was it. We didn't do the Mushin, Notion, etc. So if that's the case, if we like that stuff, if we find value in that stuff, why don't we do that in the rest of our lives? Why are we not sharing these things? Why are we not enjoying working? Let me give you an example. How often do you see people in a professional setting working with more novice employees, coworkers, and enjoying it? I don't want to have to teach you that. I have my own work to do. Right? Now, some of that's culture. And when we take it out of the professional setting, it happens. People teaching kids. Let me show you how to do this. Whether it's a school environment or a parental environment or just kind of like a mentor relationship, it happens. But when we get into the workplace, it doesn't happen. Now, my thought is some of it's culture, some of it, as we spend more and more time training, we recognize that the ability to pass on that information requires people being willing to pass on the information and that it's a group effort. By the time you get to the point where you have knowledge to pass on, you've been in martial arts for a little while. You've probably gone through some personal growth stuff that a lot of people in a corporate environment would probably benefit from. Stacy says, I love having interns and trainees at work. How do you work with them? All right, so I was kind of right. Shoshin is empty mind, but Jenny's drawing a difference between empty mind and beginner's mind. Shoshim is beginner's mind, and Mushim is empty mind in Korean. Interesting. All right, no, we're on the same page. They're basically the same terms. Shoshin is beginner's mind. Mushin is empty mind. Okay, there we go. This is one of those places where I wish the cultural elements of martial arts were more pervasive in the public. I've worked for very few companies, mostly for myself. And I assumed, and now in hindsight, it's because of my martial arts experience, that when I started my first company, I had my first employees. I was quite committed to sharing profit with everyone. I was like, when we make money, I will pay you more and we will have bonuses and we will do all these things. They didn't care. It's like, okay, let me show you how to do this and this and this. And they didn't care. I was like, I'll teach you everything that I know. I'm willing to share all of my knowledge. They wanted to go home. And I came to understand very, very recently that a lot of the things that make me different in a professional setting are things that come from my martial arts experience. Which is why, while we don't have a written rule at Whistlekick that you have to be a martial artist to work for the company. I don't even know if that would be legal. I'm hopeful that as we grow, the people that we have around are people who are martial artists first and work with Whistlekick second. That's my hope. Stacy says, I've had several interns at different businesses, coaching on being an admin support, how to craft a resume and prepare for professional interviews, how to enter the workplace after personal or legal challenges. In my new job, we'll be looking for an intern to aid with government community relations and help them dive into that work. Sounds like a great role for somebody who wants to go into one of those fields as like a college, probably college freshman, maybe sophomore. And fortunately, Stacy works right near a couple colleges. I bet she'll find somebody. There's no formal conclusion to this line of thought. It's simply that I'm going to encourage you to be aware of it. That I'm finding personally increasing struggles relating to the world as the world does the things that the world is doing and people respond in the way that they are. I'm finding that the people that I talk to, that I'm able to have conversation with, are primarily martial artists. It's a lot of you folks. And it's because you see the world similarly because of your time training. We've all had that experience. We've grown as who we are. We've become better versions of ourselves. We're more open-minded, etc. This is why I say concretely in the Martial Artist Handbook, martial artists are better people, because people are better through martial arts. There we go. I'm going to go. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Hopefully you're going to check out John Araujo's episode of the podcast. What did I say? 7:34. And let me know what you think. Andrew will post about it in the Facebook group, Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio behind the scenes. You can find it all over the place. I hope if you're willing to support us and what we do, you'll consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick, making a purchase at whistlekick.com using the code FIRSTCUP15, or if you consider yourself part of the Whistlekick family, hopefully you are checking out the family page at whistlekick.com/family. I update it at least once a week. There's stuff. If you haven't checked it out before, you don't know what I'm talking about, but you should check it out. Then you can know what I'm talking about. We are the only martial arts morning show going live 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. I appreciate you all for joining me. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.